Hey guys, how we doing? Welcome to Talking Boxing. It is Monday, June the 3rd, 2024. And can you believe we are in June already? It's just amazing how quick the days, weeks and months go, especially when you're a little bit older like I am at the moment. So great to have everyone that's in the chat at the moment. What a weekend of boxing that it was, eh? We had, of course, the 5x5 last week. Even I think was it last week? It was the Premier Boxing Series. So we'll have a bit of a chat about that. A couple of other Premier Boxing Series coming up as well. But as I said, the big news of this week is the 5x5, and I've got a feeling that Eddie Hearn wouldn't be feeling too great at the moment. Would he? He was blown away in terms by Queensberry, Frank Warren. And I will say what was good about it all was that they all took it well, Eddie took it in good stead anyway. He was a good sport about it. So afterwards they had the video on the plane and sitting next to Frank Warren. It was pretty good anyway. But look, I thought it was a great day of fights. It was a bit of an early one. We kicked off the watch along at 6 o'clock in the morning and went to about 10:45. So it was a big day, but loved doing it. For the handful of people that joined me, thanks very much. It was good. It was a good day. All the fights were great, and I'm sure we'll hear all about it. So let's get to some viewers at the moment. Let's start with Damien. Damn, I would have cleaned up on the 5x5 card. I got all the picks right except the main event. You went for Wilder. Wow, serves me right for betting on Wilder. I knew he was done watching him in round one. Well, yeah, look, I think I said it a few times in my predictions, Damien. I thought that Zang would win, but a lot of it depended on what Wilder turned up. And the Wilder that I thought would turn up did turn up, the one that was on the back foot, not coming forward, because I thought the only chance that Wilder had, in my opinion, was to go back to the old Deontay Wilder, go in center ring, just stick out the left hand and then look for the big right hand to come after it. That's what he is. But unfortunately, his trainer, Malik Scott, who I know was a pretty good defensive, technical type of boxer back in his day, there's a big difference between switching over to training, and I just think he tried to make Deontay Wilder into some sort of boxer, and I would have thought after spending even just one session with Deontay Wilder, he would have realised that boxing, or technical boxing, is not his thing. So I was surprised that, and I'm pretty sure, I don't think he won a fight with Malik, did he? Because he was obviously with Mark Breland, who did a great job with him, if you ask me. And, well, he was undefeated. Actually, sorry, he lost, drew the first one with Fury, lost the second one, of course. What do you do when you don't have a great performance? Well, it can't possibly be my fault. We'll just turf the trainer that's got all the runs on the board, and we'll just get someone else in who tried to turn him into a boxer, and it was disaster. This guy, look, I was getting frustrated watching the fight, Damien, because, and you would have seen if you were watching it as well, that not only was Deontay Wilder trying to box, which is laughable enough in itself, considering his lack of technical skills and experience and everything else, he was moving to his right against a southpaw boxer, not being forced to move to the right, willingly moving to the right. Now, we know sort of anything about sort of boxing technique. If you're an orthodox fighter, you're trying to move to your left, okay, to try and set up the right hand and get away from the power hand of your opponent. If you're a southpaw, well, obviously you're trying to do the opposite and you're trying to go to the right, again, for your power hand and to negate your opponent. But he just made it so easy for Zang. And Zang wasn't anything great either. I know everyone's patting him on the back today, saying he's back and he should fight Joshua and everything else. He wasn't anything flash. No way. He all he did was just sort of chug along and wait for his opportunity, and Wilder just gave him opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. I don't think, probably a little bit like what Joseph Parker was when he fought Wilder, I don't think he could have been able to believe his luck that the way that Deontay Wilder fought him, because he would have had to have had some reservations about, well, if the Deontay Wilder we've all known over the years turned up, this is going to be a tough fight. But soon as you just said there in round one, as soon as Wilder started to back up, and look, even when he was going to his right, he was crossing his feet. So, again, if you're not technically around the boxing side, so he's got his left foot out in front, right foot at the back. He was stepping with his front foot first, which means he's crossing his feet every time he steps to the right. which not only negates him, but also puts him in danger of getting knocked down or getting caught or just tangled up, which he seemed to a few times. But anyway, look, the one thing I'm not going to do, though, is rubbish Deontay Wilder as a person, a father, even a fighter. I've never rated him as far as being an elite boxer. I've never put him into the category of being anywhere near elite. But this is a guy who took up boxing very, very late, did it because of his disabled daughter to earn money. So full respect to him for that. He managed to get 10 title defenses, and I can't believe he was able to do that. But he had the green belt, defended it 10 times, and yes, he was exposed against any half-decent fighter that he fought. But again, full credit to him for getting as far as he did with minimal skills. And I think it was to do with his trainers as well. And obviously the wheels fell off when he went with Malik Scott. But he does decide to retire, which I hope he does. Let's hope that he has a happy, successful retirement because he's probably worth $100 million. So good luck to him. I'll move on because I'll get stuck here all day. All right. We've got Carl as well. G'day. Hope all is well. The best American heavyweight in history was just retired by the Big Bang Man. I know you're a little bit tongue-in-cheek there, Carl. But look, as I said, good luck to him in retirement. It's not that Big Bang Zang was anything special. He just had an opponent in front of him who wasn't great to begin with, but looked completely shot, completely confused. And he did look that way a little bit with Joseph Parker as well, didn't he? Just looked totally out of sorts, just fighting a way that he's never fought before. And I just cannot believe, even after the Fury fights, and especially after the Joseph Parker fights, I wouldn't have went, look, this guy's 38, 39 years of age, I think he is. Let's maybe just go with his strengths and not try and change him. It's not like he's 28 or 29, he's 38 or 39. So let's just stick to what he's comfortable with, what we know he can do well, and let's just try and bomb these guys out and not try and outbox them. How do you outbox someone that's not technically a boxer? And Zhang is a very good fighter. Very good fighter. Silver medalist at the Olympic Games. So obviously he's a very good fighter and he's knocked out good fighters. But I just cannot believe they would try and outbox him. But anyway, I've been on I'm on the soapbox early tonight. But it just frustrated me that he just didn't give himself ample or his best shot at winning the fight. He was in survival mode pretty early on. The look on his face, even after the first round, was of a defeated type of look. And from that point on, I just don't think he really tried to win. Well, of course he's trying to win. I'll take that back. But he didn't. I think he knew from the start he was going to be up against it. And there was no plan B to maybe for Malik Scott to say, Deontay, look, mate, this is not working. You need to take this guy out. Let's stand your ground and start trying to land a few on him. Because Zhang's not the fastest guy in the world with his hands or with his head or with his feet. So I'm sure he would have been there for him to hit, but we just didn't even see him even try. So anyway, disappointing, but as I say, it is what it is. Sammy T, how are you, mate? Hey, Lynden, I see another former footy player is getting back in the ring. Oh, John Hypotheticals has a fight later this month. I noticed another comeback. This more exciting Andrew Hunt is scheduled to fight too. All right, well, I'm not even going to touch on the Hypotheticals situation, Sammy. I'm wrapped that Andrew Hunt is back. Very, very good young talent is Andrew Hunt. It's a shame that he retired in the first place, but good to see him back. But as far as these footy players, it's almost like one comes out, they get on a big card, and then the rest of them have to follow. And I'm sure there'll be others as well. And even now we're seeing Barry Hall and Paul Gallen going at it on social media. Guys, give me a spell. You're done. Barry Hall, hey, good on him. He's still fighting. Probably got a little bit left. No limit. Are probably going to squeeze every little bit of viewership they can out of him. But Paul Gallen, I thought he was good at the start when he said, look, these guys are still talking to me 2 years after I've retired, trying to drum up sales. But then even he got caught up in it. So I'm not going to enter into that conversation, Sammy, because I am over it. Asbot, how are you there, mate? Anyone else see the Heaney conspiracy video that suggests his connection with the SNAC and Victor Conte being the reason Garcia popped for Osterine? Thoughts, mostly conjecture, but Conte is dodgy. Yes, he is, Asbot. No, I didn't see that. Sorry. Nothing would surprise me, to be honest, so mate. Look, I don't know what to believe, and I mean, the thing is that Ryan Garcia was proven to be, well, is he proven to be guilty? No, he hasn't been proven guilty, or has he? I don't know. I lost touch with the whole thing. It was the B sample was found to have ostarine in it, like the A sample, and then apparently there was something out. I don't know, but I haven't seen the conspiracy theory from Haney, the video, to answer your question. But I just give up on that, mate. They're all just little children, these guys, and Haney's obviously trying to protect his zero. Ryan Garcia, who knows what he's up to, but yeah, I'm not sure, mate. There's H Money, or H Money if you're in the States. Salute to you, mate. Carl, did you see Bam Rodriguez sparring with Chocolatito? Virgil, we haven't actually talked about that yet. Tszyu, Virgil Ortiz. Let me know what you think. I'm sure we'll get to it. Virgil Ortiz quoted the best sparring he's ever seen. Looking forward to that one. Cannot wait, Carl, to see Rodriguez and Estrada. I'm picking Rodriguez to win, but don't sleep on Estrada. There's a reason why he's been an all-time great super flyweight, and I think he will give Rodriguez all he can handle. But I just think this is a classic passing of the torch situation, Carl. And I'd love to see Chocolatito back. I'm not sure whether obviously he hasn't retired because he's sparring with Rodriguez, but I think he's still got a little bit left in the tank. I don't think he's fought for quite some time either, has Chocolatito, so it'd be good to see him get back. He's someone we haven't seen for a couple of weeks. Old mate Big J. How are you, Big J? You need to get the chump and myself on the channel together, as you lost all the evidence of what a gutless wonder he is, and he's still ducking me. Yeah, I do apologise about that. I had all the footage and I had it ready to upload to YouTube. It was a 1 hour long video of our trip to Perth for Kambosos and Lomachenko. And you were, of course, on that video, Big J, with Jai McAllister. And to say that I was absolutely filthy losing that footage is an understatement, because it was literally, I tried to upload it, said my storage was full of something, I had to delete some files, I hit the wrong button, I deleted everything, the whole lot, the video, all the other videos. I had to make up the actual clip itself, and yeah, not very happy about that, Big J. But I can assure you, anyone out there watching that's interested in the Big J, Jai McAllister feud, that they did meet in person, and there was a little bit of banter going back and forth, so we'll see what happens next. All right, Big J. Tszyu needs to pursue the IBF belt. Only option at this point before others is that take the opportunity. Yeah, I did comment about that last week, Big J, that just it's amazing how quick everything can just turn, can just flip. 1 minute, he's got the WBO belt, about to defend that against Thurman. Then the Thurman incident happens. Fundora steps in at late notice, and credit to both guys. Both guys changed opponents a couple of weeks out. We get Tszyu versus Fundora. Looks great for 2 rounds. The cut happens, and we all know the history. He was beaten over 12 rounds by Fundora. Split decision, could have gone either way. And then jumped straight back into a big fight with Ortiz. Now he's obviously out because of the, I won't say complications, but I think apparently the cut hasn't healed properly. Fundora moves on to Spence. Virgil Ortiz will move on to someone else for the WBA interim title. And all of a sudden, the only person out in the cold is Tszyu, who 2 months earlier was the man at 154 and probably gearing up for the next fight with Crawford. It would have been him in August. And now he's just left out in the cold. So, look, I've got enough faith, I will say, Big J, in his team to get something else done. I think they've shown over the journey that, you know, he's had a lot of, this is another thing I commented on as well, is that he's had a lot of issues and dramas and everything else in his career so far, starting with the Zarafa drama, then it was the Charlo affair, then it was the Thurman issue, and now it's the Ortiz issue as well. So, and they've always managed to come through with something. There's always something that's popped up pretty quick, and he's maintained his course, and he's been able to keep fighting regularly. So I just think in this instance, though, Big J, that if all those other elite 154s, and I'm not quite sure the IBF champion, what's his name, another Russian, I can never pronounce their names. I always get them mixed up, so I'm not going to pretend. No, I won't bring it up. I'm sure someone will tell me in the chat there. But it could be an option. But yeah, I would think that if all the other elite 154 pounders are going to be tied up for most of the year, maybe just take the rest of the year off. Maybe try and come back, whether it be October 12th for the Better Beef and Bivol fight in Saudi Arabia. Maybe it's the December 21st. Tyson Fury, Alexander Usyk rematch. Maybe it's September with Anthony Joshua. Whatever those big cards are, maybe try and get onto one of those, and maybe that does make sense. But I suppose my point is I wouldn't be rushing it. I wouldn't be rushing him back. If it's no, there are going to be no big fights until later on in the year, then maybe just take that extra couple of months, and maybe this is a sign to actually rest up a little bit and get himself right, and maybe gear up for, maybe it is the October or December cards. So he's going to be right. He's already had one fight for the year. Most elite fighters these days only fight twice for the year. He's already had the one fight, so maybe saving himself for that. But I just don't think there's any rush. The one thing I will say, and I did say it on the weekly roundup last week, the only question I would ask is why would they sign the fight, announce the fight, when he hasn't been ticked off as being okay to fight? That's my big question in this situation. I would have thought there might have been, okay, we really want to get this card going and start the promotion. Okay, we'll sign it with a clause that says subject to medical clearance. And if it's not cleared, then obviously Ortiz is free to go and do what he wants. Tszyu can and heal, whatever it might be. But the fact they announced it, signed it, announced it, it was a couple of months ago. So far away from the event, 4 months out. We see fights these days get announced within probably 7 or 8 weeks. That was 4 months out. So that's the only question I have. There's just a little bit of smoke there if you ask me about why they would do that. But at the end of the day, to answer your question there, Big J, or to converse with what you said there, I think wouldn't be a bad option for the IBF, but I got a feeling he wants to go big, and he'll have a tune-up fight, and then I think he'll aim for one of those guys, Crawford, Spence, if they get through, of course, or it might be Madrimov, it might be Sebastian Fundora again. But either way, I think he's got a bit of time to long answer short, if that makes sense. All right. Not good. These ex-footy players that are nearing 50, like Hall, need to realise that they're well past it and give it up before getting hurt. Hall should have learnt after Sonny Bill. We should have, mate. He's got, I think, 3 or 4 young kids. And look, I know I've had some issues with No Limit across the board, but I think the last couple of events haven't been too bad. But in this instance, why do they need Barry Hall on that card? Well, it can only mean one thing. They want pay-per-views. Does he sell? I'm not this guy who's fighting Curtis Scott. I don't know anything about rugby league, so fill me in, but apparently he's a good rugby league player, so I can understand why they're trying to get on to sell pay-per-views, but at some stage, they've got to have a bit of accountability as well, and just stop putting... I'm not so much against having rugby players on the card, but or football players, but when you're nearing 50 years of age... do we really want and need that on these cards? And all it takes is something bad to happen, and who knows what might happen after that. But No Limit, I think their shows have got enough going for them. They don't need these type of fights on their cards. I'd hate to be Team Tszyu right now. What a debacle. Maybe the Chump and I have a shot at headlining a show. The way things are going for No Limit, it's a chance. Well, I've just touched on that, yeah. But look, as I said, Big J, I'm sure there'll be something comes out, or there's something that will come out, and I'm sure he'll be back on track. But at the moment, yeah, as I said before, it's just amazing how quick the tide can turn, isn't it? And but I did say as well, it's not always as good as it seems, and not as always as bad as it seems. And this is a classic case right here. What's this here? This is your chance to back the Mighty Maroons this Wednesday for Origin. Unlike the Blues, Carlton, New South Wales, we actually win titles. That's a bit low there, Big J. As a Queenslander, I can get you an honorary pass. Go the Maroons. Is that this Wednesday, is it? And I think it's at the mighty MCG, the best stadium in the world. And if you haven't been to the MCG, put it on your bucket list. Not so much this Wednesday night, but get there to a big game. I mean, on... this week, there are 2 games. I'll get probably, about 180, 190,000 between 2 games this weekend. Essendon and Carlton on Sunday night at the G will probably get 90,000 plus. And Melbourne and Collingwood on the Monday will get 90,000 plus. So What a week. And then with this as well, I'm not sure. They'll probably get 90,000. Big J, Victorians turn up. Don't worry about that. I know there'll be an influx of Queenslanders and New South Welshmen. So let's hope they're only in town for a day or so and we see the back of them. But it's good to have them in town. We'll happily take their money. We need it. We need it, guys. I just saw today that there's been a $12.7 billion blowout in the works that the Victorian government are doing at the moment with all the projects they've got it going. Surprise, surprise, $12.7 billion over budget. $83.6 million a day we are paying us Victorians. Get your head around that, eh? There you go. That's in interest, by the way. There you go. But yeah, all jokes aside there, Big J, great for the sport, great for Victoria. I've got to say I'm probably, even though they are the Blues, I'm probably more of a Maroon supporter. Even though, as I said, New South Wales are the Blues. They're the Sky Blues. I'll stick with the Maroons this week, Big J, like you said there, and go for what are they, the Cane Toads? Is that what they call them? The Maroons? Good luck to them anyway. Let's hope they get a big crowd and it's a good game. All right, Tommy, with Fury and Usyk set for December, it seems like AJ and Parker are shut out at the moment. Do you see any of those guys fighting Dubois next? Yes. Look, the big question, of course, Tommy, is it going to be Zang or Dubois for Joshua? I don't think Joshua's locked out or shut out at the moment. I think it's just a natural course that we'll see him get his chance. Of course, Fury and Usyk is the biggest heavyweight fight out there. Arguably, I'm sure you can put AJ in there if it was a Fury fight. I think Parker's probably the one that's shut out, Tommy. I'm not quite sure where he goes. And isn't it amazing that Zang, who Parker beat quite comfortably in his last fight, is now one of the front runners, and Parker's like not even in the conversation. I think it'll be Dubois. Being it's going to be at Wembley, he's got the IBF interim belt. I think it will be AJ and Dubois, and I like the fight. I thought Dubois was very impressive yesterday. I really do. Hrgovic for me was disappointing. I thought he started okay and really gassed out pretty quick. I know the cut eyes wouldn't have been great for him, but I thought he gassed a bit early. Didn't really have any game plan. I didn't think it was just really just throw a stiff jab and hope the right hand comes after it. I know he's never been the most skillful type of guy, and he's a little bit mechanical, but I thought he would have done a little bit better than that. And I thought Dubois adjusted really well, and I was really impressed with the way he fought. Does he beat AJ? I don't think so. But I would think, Tommy, that will be the fight. But it just makes sense. In Wembley, the IBF interim belt on the line, the winner gets the winner of Fury and Usyk. It just makes a lot of sense. So I think that's the fight we'll get, mate. And what a great fight it'll be. It'll be great with everything that the Saudis are doing over there, and it's great. It will be awesome to see AJ back at Wembley Stadium. I know the Saudis do it well, but you look at the stadium yesterday. I'm not quite sure how many they get in there. It didn't look like it was a big stadium. It didn't look like it was even full yesterday. AJ at Wembley with 90,000 people. That's what I want to see. And I know it's all happening in Saudi Arabia, and that's where the money is. But still, I can't wait to see him and another Englishman duke it out at the Wembley Stadium. All right, still with Tommy. I know they say power is the last to go in fighters, but did it seem to you that Wilder's right hand lacked the same pop as before? It did, Tommy. But as I said at the start, a lot of that had to do with the way he was throwing it. Now, when you're moving to your right, trying to throw the right hand, you try and do it. Try and move to your right and throw the right hand as you're moving. It's almost impossible. You might land it, but it has nowhere near the effect. So I would have thought, even if he wanted to be on a little bit of the back foot and try and draw Zang onto him, he didn't have to do all the movement. He could have literally just taken a few steps back, pulled out the left like he was trying to do, wait for Zang to come onto it, and then try and land the big right hand. But what he was doing is moving, especially to the right. Not only did it make it awkward for him to really set down on his punches, but the fact he's moving to his right hand just lost half its potency. So I don't think he really stood a chance the second he started with that game plan, going to the right, on the back foot, moving. It was all over. It was all over. And Zang, again, didn't fight the greatest fight, just followed him around the ring, waited for his opportunity, and then and then and just went after Wilder, who just had no answer. But that's I think the reason why why didn't seem to have the same pop is because of his technique going to the right. All right, we're going to sort of a couple from there. Tommy, Conti is 100% shady, but fighters like Plant, Porter, Nonito, Andrade, Devon, Barrios, Mikey, Jacobs, Berto, Zab, they all been with SNAC and get beat. Not sure the last time one of those boxers failed a test. Yeah, good point there, Tommy. We'll keep going there so I don't get too far behind. And sorry about these comments, guys. It looks like they started off upside down as usual, but they do write themselves as they go. I'm hearing replacement opponents for Virgil Ortiz might be fighters like Lubin and Boachok. Who would you like to see him take on? Boachok, I think. Tommy? Lubin, okay. But Boachok, I think, is the one I would like him to fight. That would be explosive. That would be a very, very good fight, that one. Yeah, that's the one I would like there. Tommy? Asbot says, a theory is that Conte contaminated Garcia's sample through his VADA connections. Well, that was the allegations thrown back by Ryan Garcia, wasn't it, Asbot? So, again, not getting drawn into it all. It's just a circus, and I don't think this is the final act, if you ask me, mate. Yes, Carl, 10-0 to Queensberry. Yeah, so it was 5-0 as far as the fights went. And then we had the stoppage in the main event. Who was the captain? No, wasn't. No, Wilder was Matchroom's captain, wasn't it? So I think Shiraz, he was a captain, so that was worth double points. There was an extra 2, and what were the others? Whatever it was 10-0, but it was a clean sweep for Queensberry. So as I said at the start, I don't think Eddie Hearn was very impressed at all, but he took it like a champ. I'm sure behind closed doors he would have kicked the cat or something when he got home, but I'm sure he'll be already gearing up for the second edition. And I love the concept, by the way. I really like the concept of trying something new. I think it's great. I don't really like so much the team bonding session with Frank Warren in the little studio there, or the theatre, or whatever they had there, and he had them all giving them the pep talk. These are all individual athletes. I know it looked good for the cameras, and I'm sure that's all that it was, but I don't think we need to get the team in to discuss their performance. I think they all know what they've got to do, and maybe just address them individually. But I got a feeling DAZN would have put them up to that. But anyway, there's Sam in the chat. How you going, Sam? Welcome to the show, mate. All right, Carl. I've seen the doco. I can't stand that guy, Victor Conte. He shouldn't be in the sport. That seems to be the general consensus, Carl. I don't really know too much about the whole situation, so I won't pretend to comment too much on it. But all I know is that he's been alleged to be very, very dodgy, checkered past, and maybe you're right there, doesn't deserve to be in the sport. Yeah, Tammy says it's definitely, a young man's game, that's for sure. Well, I just don't think he gave himself the best opportunity. If he's going to go out like he did, and it was always going to happen, he was all arms and legs when he started to back up. So I'm not that stressed about the result, but I'm sure that if he just had to win out there and fought the way Deontay Wilder has fought in the past, what made him a world champion? Let's go out there, and if it's not good enough, well, it's not good enough. But at least he fights the fight on his terms, and whatever happens after that. But I think he will just be pretty filthy that he went out there and the game plan just sucked. I suppose, I know I've said it a few times, but the game plan was just ridiculous. It was just ridiculous. Larry Liston, how are you, Larry? Raymond forward a late starter against Kolmatov. He got the comeback, but the pressure and absolute physicality of Nick Ball kind of had him shook in the first 6 rounds. Yeah, Larry, I was watching that fight sort of off and on because I didn't start the stream until 6 a.m. and I think we might have been in the second round by that stage. And I was trying to, there was a lot of comments coming in, and I was trying to just get organised and give everyone a rundown. So I was sort of going back and forth a lot during the fight. I must admit, watching the fight, I thought Raymond Ford might have done enough to win, but I didn't watch enough of it closely to really have a good gauge on it. But just glancing back and forth, I thought Ford. But what were the scores? 115, 113 across the board, weren't they? So 2 for Nick Ball, 1 for Raymond Ford. No, I feel good for Nick Ball. Because arguably he got ripped off against Ray Vargas. I didn't see it that way. I thought a draw was a fair result. I didn't think he really turned up until the second half of the fight, Nick Ball. Wouldn't have begrudged him if he won, but I think I'm not going to argue with a draw. But it was good to see that he got a second opportunity. He took his chance and has won that title. Raymond Ford, of course, really struggled with the weight factor. He's going to go to 130 now. And not quite sure what fights are there for him. Maybe Ortiz or someone like that, I suppose. But at least he's going up in weight. You've got to remember these. It should be a bit of a lesson to a lot of the other fighters out there. Don't try and just squeeze that extra few pounds out of you that inhibits your performance. Go up the extra 3 or 4 pounds and be strong and hard and ready and focus more on your technique and conditioning rather than losing weight. So I hope it's a bit of a lesson to not only Raymond Ford, but all other fighters out there. All right, Sammy, how good was a Charlie Bell Asako fight on 7+? Great way to open up a card. It was a good card. I really like the concept of the 5-rounders, Sammy. I thought it was really good. Really good. Look, I think the main event for me was a little bit of a disappointment. I thought Dan Hill fought a really good fight, but who did he fight? Whoever it was. I'd seen him fight a few times, and he always brung it, and he always had a lot of pop in his punches, but just at no stage did he really try and turn up and win. I know Dan Hill was a tough guy to fight because he's always on you. He always puts the pressure on, never stops throwing punches. But, yeah, I was just disappointed in that one. Dan Hill, by the way, did everything he needed to win the fight, and good on him. But I was disappointed in that one. But the rest of the card, especially that fight, Sammy, it was a very, very good card all around. And again, I like the 5-round prelims. I think it's great. Just long enough to get a definitive winner, but short enough not to have everyone sort of falling asleep in their chairs. So I loved it. The female fight, I actually thought watching it that maybe what's her name? Angel Rushton might have done enough to win. Look, it wasn't a great fight either, but I thought it was even. It was almost like watching a female tennis match, though, wasn't it, with Angel Rushton? Every punch he threw, she was yelling and screaming and carrying on. And DD Hobbs, I don't think really landed any notable punches at all. I'll just get it off my screen there. But apparently did enough. I definitely don't agree with the scorecards where I think they had it 6 rounds to 2 for DD Hobbs. I didn't see it that way. I thought it was close. Maybe a draw would have been the best result, which I think one judge might have had it a draw. And then the other two had it for DD Hobbs. But overall, look, I love the concept. The next one's on June 19th in Melbourne. And that's the Team Alice. And then the back, I think it's on July 20th. And I like the main event. Jalen Tate, Ibi Bella. That will be a cracker. I know it hasn't been officially announced yet. I did see there might have been a poster or something leaked today on social media. But by all accounts, it will be Jalen Tate and Ibi Bella together. So that should be a ripper. Maybe the winner fights the winner of Liam Wilson and Yusuf Dib in another great lightweight fight. So plenty of good matchups coming to hand. This is a great thing also, by the way, with whether it be 7+ or No Limit with what they do as well. And even Tasman with DAZN. We're starting to see the good Aussies fighting other good Aussies. And I love it. I think it's great. And and those two lightweight fights there, Wilson and Dib, and Bala and Tate, two great Aussie lightweight matchups. Should be an awesome couple of months coming up. All right, Larry, had Ford tried to use the uppercut either to the body or head of the smaller fighter coming at him, he would have had more success, in my opinion. That's the shot that hurt Nick in the 6th or 7th round. Yeah, look, it's hard to say, Larry, because Nick Ball, I mean, the way he fights, he's so short. He comes in at different angles. He's a little bit unorthodox coming in. I thought Ford did okay. Yeah, he probably could have thrown the uppercut a little bit more. But when you've got someone, especially when you start to get a little bit fatigued as the fight goes on, it's not that easy just to say, well, I'm just going to do this or do that. Because Nick Ball, he's just a buzzsaw, isn't he? He just keeps coming at you from start to finish. And look, I myself, again, as I said, I thought Ford might have done enough to win, but it was a close enough fight either way. That it's a matter of inches, and I suppose you're right. It's good in hindsight to look at whether he should have thrown the uppercut to the head or body, but I think he fought a good fight. I'm sure when he looks at the tape, he obviously see some things he could have done differently, but I thought it was a good performance by both guys, and I thought Ford especially showed a lot of heart to hang with him right to the end. It was great last round. It was touch and go, back and forth, had everyone on their feet, but overall it was a great fight. Who we got there? Kyle Champion. Looking at Eddie's list of heavyweights, Frank has him outmatched in every single way. Joyce, Parker, Fury, Zang, Dubois. Queensberry has the strongest stable of heavyweights in the game. You're right, Kyle, but all it takes, he's got AJ, remember? All it takes is for AJ or for Eddie to match AJ against one of those guys. And I think, AJ's already beaten Parker. Hasn't fought the others, of course, but I would back probably Joshua against all those guys. So all it takes is to have the heavyweight, the 5x5, and have AJ against one of those guys. And I think he gets the chocolates. But you're right, overall, Queensberry with it. And look, Queensberry's probably been, well, one of those promotional firms. It's just flown under the radar. It's always been Top Rank and Matchroom and Golden Boy. I suppose PBC thrown in there as well. But they've always been the big guys. Queensberry have just gone about the business, and you're right. Look at the stable that they've put together, and that was shown yesterday. 5 out of 5, and I think he'd been out of it for a while, just going about his business, slowly just building his stable back up. And look what he did yesterday. And I know one or two might have gone the other way, but yeah, you're right. He's got a very, very good stable, especially as far as the heavyweights go. All right. Sam, have you heard if Tszyu versus Ortiz is being postponed, or is Ortiz fighting someone else? Absolutely gutted if Tim loses this fight. I think it's all up in the air at the moment, Sam. I think that Ortiz will definitely fight someone else on the August 3rd card. And I know, as we said before, whoever it was, Bolachuk or Lubin, that makes a lot of sense. I just think at the moment for Tim, he's been going hard for quite a few years. He's always fought 3 or 4 times a year. Even after the Sebastian Fundora fight, he had another fight announced within a month or so. This is a fighter's fighter, this guy. I would think that maybe his team could say to Tim, just go and just step off. You're going to be out probably towards the end of the year anyway. Maybe go and just, spend time with your fiance and do your thing. Keep fit, but just maybe clear your mind of boxing for a little bit, and we'll take care of business from this end so that when you're able to come back, then we're ready to go. We'll have an opponent for you, but I think the mental break, as far as a physical break at the moment for Tim, I think it's just everything happens for a reason, as they say, and I just think this might be an opportunity, as I said, for his team, just to say, Tim, all you've thought about for the last 5 years is boxing. Go away and have a bit of a break with your lovely fiance, and we'll take care of business. Come back in a month or so. We should have something organised by then, and then we can concentrate on a fight towards the end of the year. So, but Ortiz will move on, Sam. This game moves way too quick. And Tim, unfortunately, for the next few months, will be on the outer, not really mentioned much at all. They'll all go about their business, but all it takes, and they're only as good as the last fight, as they say, all it will take is for Tim to come back and fight and beat anyone, by the way, just to be back and have a win under his belt. And I'm sure that there'll be something big comes after that. But I don't know, call it gut feel. I just think it would be a great opportunity for Tim to take just a small mental break as well as a physical break and get himself right to go again. Reset, phase 2 of his career. That one has been cancelled for now. Oh, sorry, yeah, the Ortiz-Tszyu fight, yep. I know they did say it was going to be postponed, but it's cancelled. It'll be maybe redone at a different time, but I mean, you can't reschedule a fight if one of the opponents is already moving on to another opponent. So we don't know what's going to happen with that. He might win that fight against Bolachuk, and all of a sudden he's got other options as well. Because remember, Fundora was all about the Tszyu rematch. We'll wait for the rematch. Once he had the belt, it all changed. So I've got a feeling this will be the same. I think it's definitely cancelled. And then if Ortiz wins, I'm sure his team will evaluate all the options. But all it's going to take is for Tim to win one fight later on in the year, and I don't think it'll be a title fight. I just think he'll be back against someone and then gear up for a big 2025. All right, Carl, whenever Wilder fought tough competition, he came up short. Yeah, he did, mate. He did. He did come up short. But that's boxing, isn't it? We've seen it happen. That's the only way to probably describe it, isn't it? Yep, when he came up short. Look, I think Tyson Fury is levels above Wilder as far as talent and everything goes. But the fact that he hung with Wilder with Fury for 3 fights, I know he got stopped in 2 of those fights, but the way he hung in those fights, could have had Tyson Fury out in all 3 of those fights. I don't know whether that says more about Fury than Wilder, who knows, but I just think after the Fury fights, I think he was done. I just think, even though he was limited in his ability and everything else, I think at least in the Fury fights, he was in those fights. He was motivated. Fell short, of course. But again, he could have won all 3 of those fights. I just think after that, he mentally checked out. And I just think you could see in the Park, even the fights he won, I mean, they were just gimmies, they were. But as soon as he came in against Parker, and especially Zang on the weekend, I don't know what you guys thought, but I just saw a fighter that was just done. Mentally checked out. And sometimes you don't know that's the case until you're actually in the ring, where you're in there and you think, geez, I just haven't got it anymore. I'm not up for it anymore, and it's too late by then, of course. So I'm hoping he retires. So, he's got to make that call. He's financially set for the rest of his life, so go and live your life. I don't think he's got any hope whatsoever of beating those top heavyweights, let alone winning a title back. So, and with so much going on in the heavyweight division, he might be a year or 2 out anyway of getting back up to a point where he's able to challenge. There's a lot of guys in line at the moment. So obviously you've got Usyk and Fury and Dubois and Joshua and Zang and all these guys, Parker, all lining up. And then no doubt you'll have guys like Hrgovic looking to come back as well. So it's a long way back. So I think that's it. But again, salute to him. He's done a lot in boxing, and he's got out in one piece. So good luck to him. All right. Wilder's crazy fans are still saying the referee cheated him. What? By letting Zang hit him after the pirouette. Funny content, I tell you. Now, Carl, I do 100% agree with what you're saying there about the crazy fans, but what I will say is that when that happened, I actually said myself, might have even been on the stream, I don't know how or why the referee allowed that to happen, because in the actual rules, if a fighter does the pirouette, the referee will stop the action, warn the fighter for doing that pirouette, and then call box on. So even though I agree with you, there are crazy, and there's no way he would have beat Zang, and there's no way the referee cheated. I think, in my heart of hearts, the referee was too slow to act. So when he did the pirouette, he should have been close enough to say, stop, don't pirouette. But the problem is that he was hurt, and Zang got in too quick and nailed him. So what does a referee do then? Can't necessarily disqualify Zang. He can't warn Zang because Wilder's out. He's gone. Even though he did get up, he was gone. So very, very tricky situation. I've got a feeling the referee just bit his lip and hoped it would go away. And I've got a feeling the officials thought the same way. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I've been thinking about that since yesterday, and I have talked to a couple of people about it. And so have I missed something here? I thought the rules were that if you do a pirouette, the referee will stop and warn you for doing that pirouette and then wave you on the fight. But like I said, Zang got in too fast and he was too far away from the action. And by the time he got close enough, Wilder was down and out. Very, very interesting point. So I understand what you're saying about the crazy fans. No, the referee did not cheat. I just think he was too slow getting to Wilder, and he was down, out, and I think he just hopes that would go away, and so do the officials. But very, very interesting point you bring up there, mate. All right, Larry, you're a bit confused on the Tszyu situation. First, Fundora was told by the commission he couldn't fight for 6 months. Then I remember seeing an article saying the commission pulled out Tszyu. All right, well, I'll try not to spend too much on this situation here because I could be here all night. But I'm not sure whether Fundora was told by the commission he couldn't fight for 6 months, Larry. The way I saw it was he was suspended. Definitely he was suspended because of the nose and the operation and everything else and the punishment that he took in the fight. But I don't think he was actually officially suspended, officially suspended for 6 months. Normally it's a couple of months, 2 or 3 months, whatever it might be. And you will find, even Tszyu, he was suspended for a couple of months as well. It's just an automatic thing they do in Nevada. But I don't think at any stage there was an official ruling by the commission to say he was out for 6 months. His team actually said he will be out until the end of the year. And then as for Tszyu, that's the other interesting one. The commission, they didn't pull out Tszyu. They just ruled he was well, I suppose they did pull him out because they suspended him. They said he wasn't able to spar for at least a couple of months, and that would then obviously rule him out for the August 3rd card. But again, I'll ask the question, why didn't the commission inspect him before they were allowed to sign and announce that last fight, especially so far out? 4 months out from the fight, they're announcing that, oh, not 4 months, was it 3? Was it now? It's June, so 2 months to go. So it's been 6 weeks, 6 weeks since they've announced the fight. So way further out than what is normally the case. But all that's happened with Tszyu, Larry, is the commission have said that Tim isn't allowed to spar for a month or two, whatever it might be, which obviously rules him out of the fight. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. Look, I suppose in some respects, we're all still guessing, aren't we? Because there hasn't been any official statement, I don't think. I know Tim's promoters have commented, and there has been a few comments going from different sides of the fence, but I don't think we've actually had that 100% official ruling or statement from the commission yet. But, yeah, as I said, mate, he wasn't, this is Fundora, wasn't told he couldn't fight for 6 months. I think the recommendation was 6 months and his team said it'd be 6 months, but I don't think that was officially put in place by the commission. All right, Ryan Johnson, how you going there, mate? Get a look at No Limits card. Can't believe they're going to charge for that tripe card. Well, Ryan, I've been waiting for someone to bring up the card. Now, if you don't know, it is Sam Goodman and the Thai, is it Warra, Chanoi Warra, what I think his name was. Undefeated, 25-0-1 from memory. Barry Hall, of course, with the Curtis Scott on the undercard. Liam Wilson, Yusuf Dib. Look, good fight, but I got to agree, Ryan. I'm with you there. Look, it all comes back again to No Limit have to provide X amount of pay-per-views for the year through their agreement with Main Event and Foxtel. That's what they have to do. And with Tim now out of action, they've got to create content. So I understand what they're trying to do, and I know it looks bad that they're charging $60 or $70, whatever it might be. But at the end of the day, Main Event are saying, I think it's 4 or whatever it might be, or 5. We need content. So No Limit are scrambling at the moment, trying their best to get these fights together. The problem is, Ryan, like you said there, they've got to charge people $70 for it, which gets everyone's back up. So it's not necessarily No Limit's fault, but it is No Limit's fault, if that makes sense. No Limit have signed the contract with Main Event to say they'll provide the No Limit on Fox shows. They'll provide the pay-per-view shows. The problem is they haven't got enough content or resources or whatever you might want to call it, quality fights, to put the fights together that people are willing to pay. And let's face it, Ryan, the only ones really that are worthy of pay-per-views in this country is being a Main Event are Tszyu, George Kambosos, and I would say Jaya Pattaya would be in there as well, but unfortunately and ridiculously, he's unknown mostly in Australia, apart from the hardcore fight fans. So they're the three that are probably worthy of it. The Maloney's, I think, were too, but again, it's a very hard sell for the little fellas. But they're, when you think about it, the only ones that are really, I think, worthy and would be supported by the fight fans out there like yourself, who would say, okay, it's Tszyu or it's Jaya Pattaya or it's George Kambosos. Okay, I'll pay. The problem is that these fights that are the main events really are just worthy of being free on Foxtel or whatever it might be. But again, they need content. So, and also the other problem is if they did it on a card that was free on Fox and only got the X amount of dollars they get given by Fox to put their shows on, nowhere near enough to put on even those fights that are on that card. They wouldn't be able to, they'd probably be able to afford Goodman versus Warrawat, but they wouldn't be able to afford the other fights on the undercard. So it's a bit of a catch-22 situation. But to answer your question, Ryan, it's not really a question, it's a statement there. But in response to that statement, Ryan, I 100% agree with you, mate. It is not worth the money, but it's a bit of a rock and a hard place at the moment for No Limit and Fox and everyone concerned because, as I said, the shows they're putting on aren't worth the money, but they have to provide the best content they can for the contract. which I think are okay fights. They're just not worth $70. Do they cut the price in half, Ryan? Would that make you or make you buy the card? Say if it was 35, let's say it's $39.99 to buy. Would that enhance or entice you to buy the card? I'll be interested. But that's a big risk to run for No Limit, because all of a sudden they're thinking, shit, in theory, that's great. We sell the content or the show for half the amount that we need, hoping that we get twice the amount of buyers. But if they don't get twice the amount of buyers, then they lose money and the whole thing starts to fall over from there. So it's not a great situation at all to be in, Ryan. Look, in a perfect world, or I think in a perfect situation, Main Event should probably understand the business of boxing a little bit more, or try and understand the business of boxing a little bit more, and maybe say to No Limit, all right, we're not going to put we'll put out a quantity that we need per year. We're just going to let you guys decide whether it's pay-per-view worthy, and then heed your advice. So if Tszyu's out for the rest of the year, I would say, well, unless it's Nikita, there is no pay-per-views, because no one's going to buy these fights. So we can't have Goodman versus Warrawat. We especially can't have the Goodmans versus Schliebs, that's for sure. But that's what I would think would be the logical scenario, Ryan, is for No Limit to maybe renegotiate with Main Event and say, look, people aren't buying these fights. They don't want these events. So, because Main Event, they might even set the price. I've got a feeling they actually do sometimes. So, yeah, I don't want to dwell on it too much, Ryan, but again, it's a rock and a hard place. But maybe, as I said, they renegotiate and just don't put any minimum amounts of pay-per-views on for the year. They just say, okay, well, we'll leave it up to No Limit to decide which are pay-per-view worthy and which are not. But it's easy from this side of the fence, Ryan, because I'm not the one paying the bills. All right, Larry, against Virgil Ortiz, and now I'm reading that it's Tim's doctor, apparently. I didn't see that, Larry. I thought it was the LA doctors that inspected him, or California doctors. I thought this would be a good fight for Tim, considering Virgil's inactivity and this disease in mind. I feel a bit lost on this. Yeah, well, from what I saw, Larry, was that the California doctors, of course, this is where the fight is taking place, they inspected Tim and said they advised that he couldn't fight or spar or train or whatever with that cut. It hadn't healed appropriately. The question again I have is that Tim was in Thailand training with his dad, Kostya. Then he's come back to Australia. In what window has the California doctors inspected Tim's cut? Have they got a local doctor to inspect Tim and taken their advice and they've just made the ruling? I'm not quite sure. But as far as I read it, Larry, the California doctors were the ones that did the inspection, which, as I said, I don't know how they probably do that unless they zoom it. Unless they get someone to pull it apart and they zoom in on it. Oh, who knows? But, yeah, again, I don't know the full story yet, Larry. I'm sure it'll all come to hand, mate. All right, I'm not wrong. Wasn't Tim given medical advice not to fight for a period of time? Yeah, he was. He was, Carl. I just can't believe it's cancelled and not postponed. Well, the problem, though, is, Carl, is that they can't expect... Well, there's no official timeline on when Tim can come back. Who's to say in a couple of months' time they look at it again and say, Tim, I'm sorry, mate, you're still not right to go. So where does that leave Virgil Ortiz? So I've got no dramas at all for Virgil Hill and his team and the promoters to move on to plan B and say to Tim, okay, you let us know when you're ready to go, and then we'll decide what's going to happen with Tszyu. So I'm not worried about the fact it's being cancelled, not postponed, Carl, because again, it's not fair on Ortiz if they postpone it, and he's got to be out of action. He's got to keep training, and then in a month or so's time, or 2 months, they say that Tim can't fight, and does it get pushed back even further? So I got no dramas with that, mate. I got a feeling Oscar De La Hoya and Robert Garcia's trainer, of course, would not be sitting on their hands waiting for Tszyu to get the all clear. What do we got there? Notorious Noid. Is the pursuit of a professional boxing career after 25 with no amateur experience worth the headache? Well, as a heavyweight, it probably is notorious. 25, look, yeah, depends. It depends. I think Lucas Brown did it. Didn't have the success of Deontay Wilder, but he still won a version of the world title, didn't he? But yeah, I think heavyweights can do it, mate. And we've even seen it with the rugby players. Not that they've ever won world titles or anything like that, but yeah, no, I think it can be done. Yeah, and a lot of them too have had boxing experience. They just haven't had fight experience. If you remember that Anthony Mundine turned pro in 2000, and I got a feeling, was he in his mid-20s, I think? Hadn't had amateur or professional fights, but he'd been around the gyms his whole life. So when he turned pro, he was ready to go. All right, Paul, Michael, Craig. If No Limit did a 5x5 card, who would you pick for it to be against, Ace or Tasman, and which fights would you like to see? Whoa, I like that, Paul. I would say No Limit and Ace Boxing would be the one. Look, Tasman fighters doing really good things, and obviously with DAZN as well. They just haven't got, apart from obviously the two main ones, Jai Pataya and Justice Huni, they haven't really got any opponents, No Limit, that they could probably put up against them that would make any sense whatsoever. So you probably have to put a line through that. But Ace Boxing, I think 100% it could happen. Will it happen? No, it won't. There's too many egos and beefs and feuds and all that amongst all these promotional firms, mate. So I don't think it would happen. But I like the idea. I love the concept of maybe taking on a little bit of the UFC approach where it's a stacked card from top to bottom. I love it. I love the idea of not just saying, it's all about the main event and we'll just put on whatever fights we can afford underneath it, because no one really cares about. I like the idea of a stacked card. I don't know about 6 12-round fights, by the way, though, Paul. As much as the Saudis are doing great things over there in Riyadh, I must admit 6 12-round fights was a little bit too much. I know they're trying to give us the best fights, but some of those fights could have easily been 10-rounders, easily. The only ones that really needed to be maybe 12 were probably the two main. Well, actually, we had 3 world title fights, didn't we? So we had the WBA featherweight title, and we had the 2 heavyweight. We had Bivol was the world title fight. Had the interim title fight with Dubois and Hrgovic. Look, and then we had the eliminator. So maybe 4 tops, 4 12-rounders, and make the other fights 10-rounders. But I like the idea, Paul. I'd love to see it, but I don't think we ever will. Not for a while yet. But it would be No Limit versus Ace Boxing for me. All right, Larry. All right, you're not happy with this Tszyu situation, are you? Also, why on God's green earth did nobody from Team Tszyu enforce a rematch clause in the Fundora fight? As the new best man in the division, why fight on outside turf with no rematch clause? All right, well, look, I agree to some extent there, Larry, and we all know there was the apparent verbal agreement. But you got to remember as well that the Fundora and Tim fight happened so quickly. And I just don't think if they wanted to salvage the card, I don't think they would have been able to have or pull this off if they had sat down and tried to negotiate this deal. I think at the time, what were we, a week and a half or 2 weeks out, whatever it was, PBC would have had to have made a decision very, very quickly. So you think about it, by the time the teams get together, no doubt there would have been a little bit of toing, froing, and this and that, and whatever else. And then the other opponent, Fundora's opponent, comes into it, which is, of course, Borochuk. And so I just think there would have been too much toing and froing. And look, the minute you sit down with teams, they all start to dig their heels in. It's all about not taking a backward step and who's right and who's wrong and whose turf it is, all these different things. And all of a sudden we have a fly in the ointment, whatever they say, and this might go on for a few days, and it gets to the point where PB says, you know what, this is too hard, the fight is, or the show is off, we're just going to cancel it. So I've got full credit for both of these guys for just saying, let's just get it on. I get what you're saying about the rematch clause. I've got a feeling it was, okay, we need to do this very, very quickly. Tszyu would say, well, the rematch clause, Fundora's team would have said, yep, no drama, okay, and we'll iron out the particulars later. Now, on Tim Tszyu's side, I've got no doubt that his team would have thought, well, okay, even though the verbal is in there's no way we lose this fight, so let's not worry about it. And Fundora's team would have been thinking, whatever, let's just get on with the fight, we'll worry about it later. And maybe they didn't even really think they had a great chance of winning either. Who knows? But the point I'm getting at, mate, is if I've got a feeling if they tried to sit down and negotiate, and I know it's easy to say, well, we just want a rematch clause. Well, it's not that easy. It's not that easy. Lots of little things that have to come into it. Who knows if there was other things in place that Tszyu was supposed to fight. Maybe, there's an asterisk of fighting Crawford after this if he beat Fundora. Now, what happens with that? If there's a rematch clause, I suppose it was more from Fundora's side, wasn't there? Maybe PBC said, well, no. Well, we got Spence in the wings there. If he wins, we want Fundora to fight Spence. We don't care about Tszyu. He's not one of our fighters. There's so many little things that get thrown up. So that's probably my answer to that. What's the other one there? As a new best man in the division, why fight on outside turf with no rematch clause? Yeah, well, that's the only thing I can think of, Larry, is that it just would have been too complicated. I've got a feeling if I had sat down and tried to negotiate anything, it would have probably taken days, and PBC just would have pulled the rug and we wouldn't have got anything. So, and in hindsight, it would have been a great thing because Tim Tszyu would still have the belts and he would most likely be fighting, probably would have fought by now, but most likely would have fought Crawford in August. But anyway, that's boxing. All right, what happens in sparring stays in sparring. I personally think sparring shouldn't be filmed. Do you agree, Lynden? No, I don't, Sammy. I think sparring's okay. I mean, all the fighters normally do it anyway because they obviously look back on it, analyse it, and everything else. I don't think there should be film crews in there. But on the other hand, some fighters don't really care. Look, I do think sometimes there's a time for different types of sparring, if that makes sense. You've got the sparring where you're working on things, it's in-house sort of stuff, and apart from the actual boxers themselves, well, okay, no filming. But there are times where they want maybe some footage from the film crews, although it used to be that way, not so much these days, but where they would let the film crews in and they would actually let them do some sparring. We've all seen sparring clips of Tyson and Hagler and Holyfield and all these types of guys, but these days it seems to be a bit more in-house. But what happens is, I'm a big believer though, Sammy, that sparring should not be used as probably a gauge of who beats who in the real stuff, because that's just sparring. But yeah, I'm not too stressed about not filming. It just depends who and the situation, I suppose. I remember, quick story, when we were in LA at Robert Garcia's gym and the Maloney boys were sparring Vasily Lomachenko, and one of the guys in our little team that went over there wasn't aware of all this sort of stuff and pulled out his phone and started to film. I don't think he got too far though before it was pretty much slapped out of his hands by Lomachenko's dad, who was not impressed whatsoever. But yeah, it's a sacred thing these days, isn't it? Sparring, but again, depends on the circumstances. G'day, Andy. How are you there, mate? And I'll beat you to the punch there. Like, subscribe, share, all that sort of stuff, please, guys. It really helps the channel, apparently. So, thanks, Andy. Murtazalev. Hang on, Murtazalev. Is that how you pronounce it? I'm just hopeless with the names, mate. Even when I watch back the telecast and try and pronounce it, I'm still hopeless. So, anyway, I'll just call him another Russian. Speaking of Russians, you see Andrei, is it Mikhailovich? Is fighting, I think is fighting Janabek. What a fight that will be. It'd be interesting to see how he measures up because he can punch. Full credit to the young guy for having a cracker, we'll say, because I've seen Janabek in action close up and he's an absolute beast. So good luck to Andrei Mikhailovich. Fundora, a bitch, says Asbot. They had a verbal agreement application that didn't honour Tim with a rematch, even though Tim gave them the shot. That 100% should have been the case, Asbot. And look, I suppose you've got to give them some sort of credit. They did actually come out and say that they would give Tim the rematch. It's just that circumstances sort of happened. Now, it's not really Fundora's fault when you think about it, that Tim announced his fight with Ortiz. Then you would have thought that Fundora's, okay, well, I'll fight Spence then. So I'm not sure who's in the wrong and who's in the right there, Asbot. But, yeah, on principle, they should have waited for Tim, but as I said, Tim announced the fight with Ortiz, and a month later, Spence announces the fight with, Fundora announces the fight with Spence. So, all right. Tim did have a rematch clause. They decided to move on from Fundora. Well, there's another way, maybe, because, correct me if I'm wrong there, Carl, but the last time I sort of saw the interview with Samson Lukovic, or however you pronounce that, again, one of those names, was that he said, no, well, it's okay. We'll honor the fight. We'll honor the rematch clause. So, and then Tim announced the fight with Ortiz, and then Fundora announced the fight with Spence. So you're right. If they said, look, we don't really want Fundora, then we'll move on to Ortiz and forget about him. Well, again, who knows? Dundee, how you going there, mate? Let's go. It's Dundee Luke. Let's go Lee and Paro. Yeah, a couple of weeks away, Dundee Luke. Can't wait for that, mate, in Puerto Rico. I see he's over there training at the moment, so can't wait for that one. Larry says, Virgil Ortiz has a sketchy history of fights not being made, disease or not. Was scheduled to fight Stanionis, but cancelled twice, and now Tim has pulled out forcefully. Weird. Yeah, who knows, Larry? Again, who knows what goes on behind the scenes? Because I've got no doubt in some circumstances the fighter is injured or something happens because another option has come up that might be slightly better, and the promoters decide that this is probably in our best interest, and all of a sudden the hand injury comes or whatever it might happen, or he's got mental health or something happens and he's got to pull out and they move in a different direction. But again, it's a business. We forget that it's a business. It's not all about what us fight fans want, or even sometimes what some of the fighters want. It's what the guys and girls that control the sport want. And all it takes is a promoter to say, yeah, you know what? We've got a better offer over here that might lead to a better sort of outcome for us. So maybe we'll just pull the hand injury or whatever it might be on this fight, get out of that, and we'll move in a different direction. Or maybe sometimes it's mutual. Who knows? But yeah, lots of things happen behind the scenes, Larry. And look, the more I've been overseas and even in the industry here, and you get talking to so many people that are in the know and in the business of boxing, some of the stories they've told me, I'm just horrified. No, not horrified, but shocked. And like, wow, does that actually happen? Yes, it certainly does. So I won't go into any examples because that might give a little bit away. But a lot of it is done on purpose for a certain agenda. So what do we got there? I'll keep going down the comments. Considering Tim still had one fight left on his PBC contract and he was fighting on the Turkey Butter against Virgil. It's LL Sheik, I think it is. But yeah, good one there. Virgil seems against Virgil seems strange in itself. Again, who knows what happens there, Carl? Well, that's the thing with Tim. I know he had the fight with PBC there, but I don't think he's officially signed to anyone except No Limit in conjunction. They can pretty much do what they want. So it's interesting how it all works. But again, mate, I'm not going to try and understand the way all this works. Let's just take them all on face value and say that the doctor inspected Tim and he has been put out of the fight for a couple of months. Virgil is going to then fight someone else for a version of the belt. Fundora and Spence get their fight. Crawford and Madrimov get their fight, and then we throw them all up in the air and just see who fights who next. So never a dull moment, is there? Asbot, re your question, do you think that Team Tszyu maybe, just maybe, thought that Tim wasn't really ready for Ortiz because it was just too close, too close to his loss and Tim wasn't ready and pulled the plug? Again, Asbot, exactly what I was just saying. Sometimes there is a reason. And look, I'm not gonna cast any aspersions or comments or opinions really on it because I don't know, and I think too much of Tim's team for that to happen. But it wouldn't surprise me, and I wouldn't argue with that either. Asbot, if they did do that, I wouldn't say how dare you or that's the wrong decision or geez that's dodgy. Nothing, because I would probably think the same thing. You're right, maybe, and it probably when you do think about it, maybe it does make a little bit of sense that the fight's been pulled after the California doctors have allegedly inspected. Sorry, the fight was signed and announced and then pulled after the doctors have apparently inspected it. So it does make sense. I'll try and make sense of what I just said. I have to watch this back. But you're right. It does point in that direction that maybe they had second thoughts about Ortiz. Who knows what they've heard or seen, or maybe Tim wasn't feeling himself that he was really up to fighting in August, and maybe that's the easy scenario out of it. Because again, how do the California doctors inspect Tim when he's been in Thailand and just got back to Australia? Doesn't make a lot of sense. Unless, again, like we said before, maybe the local doctor examined him, someone that the California doctors have authorized to inspect him and give an opinion. But again, it comes back, doesn't it, Asbot, that
maybe it does make a little bit more sense when you think that they did announce the fight before it even been inspected. And now they're using this as maybe a bit of an excuse or reason to get out. But again, look, if they've thought Tim isn't ready for whatever reason, I've got no dramas, whatever excuse they use. I know they're not going to come out and say, we don't think Tim's ready for Ortiz, so we're going to pull him. So let's put the spin on there, and that's fine. But I would applaud them for saying, look, Tim's just not feeling it at the moment, or we're not. Maybe his trainer said, oh, look, I just don't, it just doesn't look right at the moment. Maybe needs a little bit longer, whatever it might be. But it does make a little bit more sense there, mate. But yeah, I suppose it'll all come out in the wash, won't it? If Liam can handle that pressure Matthias brings, I think he makes it a good fight. It's going to be tough, Carl. Over in Puerto Rico, it's going to be really tough. Make no mistake about that. But Liam doesn't seem to be worried at all by the fact it's in Puerto Rico. He's over there now, so he's going to be fully acclimatized. I think he's been over there for a little bit too, so he's going to be right. And I'm one of the fight observers, I suppose, or boxing observers that while Matthias has been very good so far, I'm not totally sold on him. I mean, we're going a lot by. He's had some good wins, but I've said it a couple of times. He's yet to beat an elite 140-pounder. So how do we know exactly if he's an elite 140-pounder himself? And I think Liam Paro, I know his resume exactly hasn't been packed full of world-class fighters. He's obviously his biggest win is Montana Love, but I think it's a very, very evenly matched fight. And even though it will be very, very tough for Liam, I think he can get the job done. I really do. I think he's a great young talent, great hand speed, great foot speed, good power, good overall skills. And I think he gives Matthias problems. Does he win? Look, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. Over in Matthias' hometown, it's his big homecoming fight. But as history's shown us there, Carl, never count out an Aussie, especially on the road, because we always come prepared and ready to fight and ready to cause history or create history. So you never know. What's this, Frank? Pie still winning the flag. Yep, okay. In your dreams, Frank. In your dreams. It's always good to have a bit of footy banter. I've got to say, though, Frank, how good did the Blues look last Thursday? Went over to Port Adelaide and absolutely wiped the floor with Port Adelaide, who were third on the ladder at the time, I will say. Frank, get on the Blues now, mate. It's not too late. Get on. The odds are not too bad. We are second favourites for the flag, but still get on. The odds are pretty good. But anyway. All right, Larry. Well, if he fights Thurman, we are back at square one. I don't think that happens, Larry. I don't think he fights Thurman. Thurman or Bolchuk is probably the only guys who haven't got a fight date yet. Could also be Murtazaliyov. Did I say that right? As Andy said. I don't think the Thurman fight happens, Larry. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see Thurman again. And I don't think Tim and his team, I know you got to do what you're told by PBC or whatever it might be, or the Turkey Al Sheikh, what they say, but I don't think they would risk Thurman again. Bolchuk's an interesting one. But as I said, Murtazaliev, he's obviously the IBF title holder. Yeah, who knows? Who knows? But I don't think it'll be Thurman. But you're right. The IBF belt, look, if Murtazaliev is still there in October, November with no opponent, well, makes sense, doesn't it? But again, we'll see, because any belt would do. The IBF probably is not the big one in the division, but when you got a belt, everyone wants a belt, a version of the belt, and they want to unify. So you've got the belt, because this is a classic example with Tim here, isn't it? He had the belt, or almost belts, and he was the man of the 154-pound division, and then he loses the belt, and no one wants to know him. It's amazing. But yeah, not a bad solution there, Larry. And Murtazaliev does make sense if that is the case. If he hasn't got a dance partner, well, he'd obviously have to be in June now, July, August. If he hasn't got an opponent, maybe they could pencil that in for October, November. Who knows? But things can happen very quickly in this sport, mate. Cole says, I'll give Paro a chance, but he's going to have to be smart. These Puerto Ricans know how to steamroll opposition. Yeah, well, he's made a few fighters quit, Kyle, hasn't he? So Melburnians turn up to AFL because there's nothing else to do in Melbourne. Come on, Paul. That's not very nice. Now, Paul, I'm going to just let you in on a little bit of information there, mate. And I know you're only having a dig there, but AFL is the third highest attended sport in the world. NFL is number 1, and there's a certain soccer league or something in Europe that's number 2, and AFL football is number 3. And I think in one of the top most watched sports on TV as well, the ratings, however they do it. So, mate, I get it, and obviously you're not from Melbourne, but take it from me down this way, mate. It is a religion. And I know you rugby guys up there like to give us a hard time, but I know deep down you just wish you were AFL supporters, because it is the biggest sport in Australia. And you can go over to Las Vegas, pretend that it actually matters over there, and all the expats getting there, and a few locals that were given free tickets turn up, and rugby league's going to take over America. Haven't seen a lot said about it since over there, Paul, but that's okay, mate. That's okay. You just sit up there in Queensland or New South Wales, wherever it is, and put your light blue or maroon face paint on, and all good, mate. I'll stick to going to the G, where it's the number 1 sport in Australia. Anyway, we'll move on. Sorry, Paul. I'm only taking the piss there, mate. It's all good. All right, Big J. MCG's game 2, it's game 2, not for another couple of weeks. Game 1 this Wednesday in Sydney. Okay, sorry, mate. So this week is game 1 and then game 2. Okay. Wouldn't it be, I suppose, I was just going to say, would it be better to have it as either game 1 or 3? But either way, they know what they're doing. The crowd will turn up either way. Tim should definitely go after the IBF. Yep. Larry says, I believe Kathy Duva is Murtazilyev's promoter, and unless she has some side deal about keeping the belt warm for either Crawford or Spence, Tim could be an option. She has no TV deal either. Okay, yeah, well, seems to be the common suggestion here that Murtazalyev could be the option for Tim. Hasn't really been mentioned too much. I must admit, I thought that he's not a big enough opponent for Tim. But having said that, as I just said earlier, the fact that he's got a belt, any belt will do, a main belt I'm talking about, at least it puts him right back into the calculations. So, yeah, it does make a lot more sense now. D-Style, how are you there, mate? Looking forward to being on your show tomorrow. If you've got nothing to do, I think it's 9 a.m. Australian time, guys. I'll be on the round table on D-Style Boxing. If you're overseas, I think it's 7 p.m. In the States. So, so check it out tomorrow morning, guys. 9 a.m. on the D-Style channel, the round table. Thanks, mate. Yep, you got my name right there. It's all good, mate. Also, Bivol, who was a fantastic fighter to watch, moves up and fight Opataya. He'll be completely crushed and knocked out in devastating fashion. Jai too big, too much power. Larry, look, I've probably got to disagree with you there, mate. I think even though Jai is a big guy, big cruiserweight, all the skills, I think he would beat Bivol. I think even as good as Bivol looked yesterday, I don't think he completely crush and knocks him out. I don't think so. I think Bivol is just way too good for that. I think Opataya would outbox Bivol. I think he would match him in all areas. And I would back Opataya to get the win. But I don't think he would crush him or knock him out, mate. But, I think he would win. What do we got here? Congratulations to all the winners yesterday. Bad luck to the losers. I only got 2 out of 5 of my picks, Shiraz and Zang. Thought Ford versus Ball was a draw, but 4 props to Ball. Yeah, I would have got, I'm just trying to think. I got Zang. I got Shiraz. I didn't get Ball. I thought Ford would win that. I got Dubois. So what's that? 4 out of 5. Yeah, and the Ford versus Ball fight was a cracker. That was a great fight, Carl. It really was. I had all my bets hit. Shame I just did little stakes compared to my usual bets. I've never really bet in boxing, I must say. But sometimes I know on the round table they'll talk about unders and overs and all this. I got no idea. It's just no idea. All right, Batman had 88-1 and a 44-1 and a 1-24, 116 and 111. Damn, could have been up huge. Let me know what you would have won there, mate. What do you say? Should have been damn shame we didn't bet the house. Yeah, well, I would have lost anyway. But again, I don't know how the boxing thing works. All right, Andy. Wilder can't throw off back foot, needs space for leverage, and almost always throws that bomb as a 1-2. Regardless, Wilder got axed. First right hook buzz, second right was stripped to the shadow realm. It was, Andy, wasn't it? Two good hooks. And that second one, because he sort of, the first one sort of shook him. It was almost like he looked to the referee and just didn't see the second one coming and lights out. It reminded me a little bit of, I've got to say, of someone in a street fight when they're not expecting it. You see him go down and lifeless. I hate to see it when the life just goes out of the body. It's like they've been hit with an electric shock. Doesn't look good, but again, he had his back turned, and I'll say it again, the referee by rights should have stopped it and said, don't turn around. And would that have changed the complex of the fight? I doubt it, but still, it's I'm interested why it hasn't really been mentioned by other experts or channels, whatever you might want to say. Sorry, Batman likes the team format. I do too, mate. Rewatch Tszyu Fundora rounds 1 and 2. Tim was kicking the shit out of that Mexican string bean. Still freaking gutted. One of the most frustrating sports events I've watched ever. I was more frustrated as bot in the building. I remember thinking after the second round, oh, well, it stopped. Well, okay, I'm dirty, but it's been a good trip over here, whatever. It stopped. And then it was like, oh, okay, they're going to let it go. And then after the third, it was like, oh, well, at least we got an extra round. Well, it was good while it lasted. No, let it go for the third round. And then it was after the fourth, well, surely it's got to be stopped now. So after the fourth round, my frustration grew because I'm thinking, like you said there, Tim was kicking the shit out of him. He would have continued to kick the shit out of him. And I was getting frustrated, think the guy can't see, and now he's in it too deep. What the hell were all you guys thinking? And what is the doctor thinking? Why hasn't he stopped the fight? We saw Philip Hrgović yesterday get stopped. I know he had a few cuts on his eyes, but they're only small little cuts, and they weren't really all in his eyes. I know his face was bloodied, but I think he could still see. And then you get Tim Tszyu has an axe wound in his head and is allowed to keep going for 10 rounds. I don't get it. That's what I was frustrated about. I'll let you guys talk about the betting there. Couldn't keep the wrecking ball off him. Ball versus Lopez would be a great fight. Yep, it would, mate. Nick Ball against anyone would be a great fight. Larry, I'm split on the team format. It was a great show, and sure they tried to market the whole us against them thing. Boxing is such an individual sport that it's hard to convince fans of the team aspect. Yeah, I'm not for it going forward all the time, Larry. I think it was a great concept this time, and it worked well because it was Frank Warren versus Eddie Hearn and Barry Hearn by extension. So that was good. But should it be a regular thing? No, maybe once a year they could do it. That's probably about it. Maybe we could do Warren versus Hearn, and then we could have Top Rank versus Golden Boy in the States. Maybe then cross over the next year. It could be Queensberry versus Top Rank and Golden Boy versus Matchroom. Who knows? But yeah, I think once a year I think's enough. If there's 4 promoters involved, then maybe it's 2 a year. But that's about it. I can just keep sort of swapping over. But as a regular thing, no, I don't think so. Volume carried Ball across the line, in my opinion, says Andy. He gave a good account of himself. It was close either way, yeah. Great fight. I don't think Raymond Ford lost anything, and I'm glad he's going to move up. But yeah, I was really impressed with both guys. Just a great fight, especially in that last round where both of them just went for it. I loved it. But yeah, no respect or anything lost by Raymond Ford at all. Carl says, I think Dubois had the performance of the night. I agree, Carl. I thought he was very, very good. Very good. Was Dubois. Again, does he beat AJ? I don't think so, but very impressive yesterday. Adjusted really well when he needed to. Yep, that should have been it. That's the bet. I'll let you guys talk about that. Team Tszyu should have put pride aside and beat the brakes off Fundora later. But hindsight means nothing really, and what happened. So, yeah, well, classic case of it is what it is, Andy. And you got to remember too, even if the fight had been stopped, there wouldn't have been a Tszyu Fundora rematch. Tszyu would have moved on. Fundora would have been, thanks, Sebastian. Pity it didn't work out this time. He didn't get a chance at it, but that's the sport. So Tim would have moved on. So this is why I'm a little bit like this as far as the whole, well, Fundora, he deserves to give Tim a rematch, and he said he would and everything else. Yeah, he should have. In principle, he should have. But as I said, on the other hand, if the fight had been stopped after the second, third, fourth round, whatever, and Tim had retained his belts, he wouldn't have fought Fundora again. He would have been aiming straight for Crawford, no doubt. He would have been. It would have probably been, well, actually, he wouldn't have fought in August because he would have had to been out for medical reasons, allegedly. So, but he would have had his belts and he would have fought Crawford, Spence, or whoever later in the year. So it probably would have been Spence when you think about it. Because Crawford, well, Tim would have been out of action. Well, they would have put him out of action. Crawford wouldn't have been available because of the Madrimov fight. So most likely would have been Tim versus Spence next in September, October, November, whatever it might have been. That would have been the fight. So Tim would have said, stiff shit or Fundora, bad luck, mate. I'm going to move on. And Fundora would have had to go back to the drawing board. So that's one thing that hasn't been spoken about a lot. There's no way Tim would have given Fundora a rematch. He would have said, well, that's just bad luck. You're a late replacement, and that's the way the sport goes. Go back and earn another shot, and I'll consider you later. And it most likely would have been Crawford, Madrimov in August, and Tszyu versus Spence in October or November, whatever it would have been, and maybe the two winners next year. That's probably what would have happened in the sliding doors situation of that show, Andy. Larry says, I had Ball 8-4 or 7-5. Honestly, competitive fight, but the aggressiveness and pressure of the British Pitbull crews won it for me. But again, scoring boxing is subjective. Depends on what you like. Yeah, it does, mate. It does. Good way to describe it. Rushton nearly won. Serious. If DD got robbed again, I wouldn't blame her if she hung up the gloves. Sorry, Kyle. I thought it was a close fight. Look, I don't think Rushton was landing anywhere near as what she was because of the noises she was sounding. But Dee barely, in my opinion, barely landed a punch. She was the aggressor, but that was about it. I think it was almost a 0-0 draw, to be honest. Maybe that would have been the best result, to have a draw. But sorry, I didn't see Dee as being impressive at all. Ball gets very low, super aggressive, extremely strong. Ball is a problem. He is, yep. Imagine if we got him versus Inoue. Whoa, that'd be a entertaining fight, wouldn't it? Not sure that style would be the right plan of action or attack against Inoue when you've got such a killer in front of you, but it would be at featherweight. 4 more pounds or 2 more kilos. So anyway, we'll see what happens down the track. There's Glenn. How are you there, mate? Nice to have you along. Yeah, Andrew, really impressed with Hamzat Shiraz. I was too, mate. I hadn't seen a lot of him, I will say, Andrew, but yeah, no, he's a big middleweight, isn't he? A really big middleweight, and I think he's going to cause some problems down the track. Him and maybe later Janabek might be a good fight, or maybe Lara. But yeah, no, I'm with you, Andrew. I was really impressed with him as well. How about Wilson versus Dib, says John Todds. Who wins that? I would have thought Liam would starch him, but he's taken some punishment in his losses and has shown he's uncoachable, so I'm unsure now. Well, uncoachable is an interesting way to put it. Look, I'm still going to back Liam Wilson. I think he gets a job done over Yusuf Dib. I didn't see the fight with Butler. I was overseas at the time, but no, I'm going to still back Liam Wilson, John. I think he still gets a job done, and I don't think Liam Wilson will be fighting Yusuf Dib if they weren't really confident of winning. Got some big fights on the horizon, apparently, a lot to lose. So credit to both of these guys for taking the fight, but I think Liam Wilson wins that one. All right. PBC, who is that? Never heard of him. Let's hope we don't hear much of him going forward, Carl. All right, Kyle. Kambosos should really consider the winner of Dib versus Wilson. He needs to get back on the winner's bracket and give the world scene a break. Not a bad call there, Kyle. The problem is with that, though, mate, is that at this stage of his career for George, it's about the money. I'm sure if it's Liam Wilson, not so much sure if it was Dib. I don't think that fight happens, even if he beats Wilson. But say Liam Wilson gets the win. Yeah, I'm with you. It does make sense. But would it happen? Look, I'm not going to say I don't think it happens because it still might. And I'm sure Liam Wilson will really push for that fight. The problem is that George has been at the top of the mountain, and you're probably right there. He needs to give the world scene a break. But at this stage of his career, it's all about the coin. If he goes to the States, he could earn, $500 to $1 million. Here in Australia, it might be a couple of $100,000. So you've got to look at that situation. And I was just going to say the ego of George Kambosos would be along the lines of, I'm not going back to the Australian scene. I've earned my place. I've done the hard yards. I'm at the world scene now and I'm going to stay there. However, if the world scene doesn't want you there as far as giving him big fights, then maybe he's got to consider coming back, and maybe a 6-month break or 12-month break out of the world scene might actually refresh him, get a couple of wins back here in Australia, and then reset. But I just think he's at the stage of his career where it's all or nothing for George. And as I said, I don't think he fights Yusuf Dib no matter what the result of that one. Liam Wilson's still a possibility, but I think it would still only happen if George has absolutely no options internationally. And no one wants him. No one wants a bar of George, promoters I'm talking about, or opponents, whatever it might be. But good take there. Andrew, thought Zinad gave a good account of himself. Great job. I thought he fought a great fight, Andrew. And wasn't it just amazing that in the space of 20 seconds, it was over? Well, Zinad did really well. He'd worn a couple, but he'd landed some good shots himself. But it was interesting though that Zinad, you could see he was poking the jab out there, looking to bring Bivol onto the jab so he could land the right hand, but Bivol was just way too smart to fall for that and just took his time and picked his punches and got him out of there very, very quickly when the opportunity arose. But I'm with you, Andrew. I thought Zinad did a really good job, and to the point after the fight, what's his name, Turkey Al Sheikh said he would be back on one of his cards later in the year. I'm pretty sure it was the October card. So, and that's what you've got to do. You get an opportunity, you make the most of it, and all of a sudden he's got himself another crack later in the year. So no, I'm with you, Andrew. I was impressed with Zinad as well. Super impressed as well though with Bivol to be able to just get it done in just land a good shot and get him out of there in 20 seconds. And not drop Zinad either. He convinced the referee to stop the fight in 20 seconds. In what was, I know Bivol would probably won all but maybe one round up to that point. But Zinad was in the fight, and just like that, the fight is over. Just, great fighter is Bivol. Bill Hack, how you going there, mate? I've never been a huge Wilder fan, but all Facebook sites bagging him out upsets me. Yep, he only had right hand, but that kept us on edge of our seat, knowing it can finish anyone. I think he's been great for boxing. Yeah, Bill, no, it's a good point there, mate. All things aside, he was good for the sport as far as being a bit of a character. You know, the whole bomb squad thing, the highlight reel knockouts one after the other. And while I don't think he's anywhere near one of the best heavyweights that have held a belt, entertainment factor 100% Bill. And the main thing, as I said earlier, he's made a lot of money. He's come out in one piece. So again, all the best to him going forward. Don't know what the heck happened with Hrgović. Looked like cuts put him off. Full props to Triple D, which is Dubois. Anyone who criticised him as a quitter versus Joe Joyce are hypocrites that never had that face broken. Yeah, I'm with you there, Andy. I agree with you there. But I think as far as Hrgović goes, I think he looked great in the first round, didn't he? And then Dubois just adjusted a few different things, made some tweaks here and there, and then Hrgović, I think the cuts did play maybe a factor, maybe just taking his focus a little bit away. But I just think Dubois made the necessary adjustments and just counted everything that he had to offer. And I just think Dubois probably exposed Hrgović for being a good fighter, but not one of the elite in the division. That's all. And it happens. It happens. Sometimes you get a lot of these fighters, and I know he's beaten Zang along the journey, but sometimes these guys, they look great, and then they come up against another good fighter and get exposed, and we all scratch our heads and think, geez, I thought he was better than that. Sometimes, mate, they're not better than that. They've just been matched very well and get shown up against another good fighter. So I just think he was he started okay. Dubois made the adjustments, and he just didn't have any answers. Although the cuts obviously didn't help. Yeah, Andrew, Bivol all class. Yep, Damien Ibrahim Abala fighting soon. Hell yes. Yep, he will be in there with Jalen Tate, which will be a really good fight. Who we got there? Shamrock 11. How you going there, mate? G'day, Lynden and lads. Billy poking horn sign with no limit. Yep, I did see that. A good interview on the channel. Appears mentally strong like Tim and Jai. He was impressive on pro debut. Would be great to follow him. Yeah, he looks like he's going to be a good young fighter, Shamrock. Now, I think, was he from England originally, but he's fought for Australia, obviously. Yeah, I can see why No Limit signed him, Shamrock. I thought he looked pretty good, or very good, and no doubt he'll be a a regular on the shows, I would say. Probably, maybe 4 fights in his first couple of years, and then, or 4 fights each year for the first couple of years, and probably go back to 3, and then look to, after 3 or 4 years, maybe look to step him up from there. But good young talent, Billy Pokenhorn, for sure. Jai still pressing for the big Australia card. Said he'd even take a pay cut for it to happen. Shows you his character. He just wants to give back to Australia. Talks are mounting. Fingers crossed. Yeah, we'll see, Kyle. We'll see. I know he would, but I know he's got to say that, by the way. But I just don't think they'll be able to generate the money here in Australia. You're right. Maybe he might take a voluntary defence and fight here in Australia for a little bit under what he's getting overseas. But unfortunately, these guys are prize fighters. The big dollars are overseas, not here in Australia. So I'd love to see it. I'm sure maybe at some stage, Turkey Al Sheikh might say, yeah, okay, well, we've conquered everywhere else. We may as well go to Australia and see what they've got. But I still don't think there's the what do you call it? The money, if I can spit that out, the money here. I'm sure they get backing, but Jai Pataya, unfortunately, he's just not a big name here in Australia. They would need some other big fights on that card for any chance to sell it. And maybe the fact that it is an Australian card, maybe Turkey Al Sheikh could get all the promoters together and take the best fighters off all those promoters and put them all on together. Maybe that's the only way it happens. But I just don't see Jai headlining a big card here in Australia unless it's stacked with another 4 or 5 big Aussie fights. What have we got there? Munsterzilla. Love the name there, mate. Parker has beaten both Zang and Wilder. Not sure why he doesn't get spoken about being in line for these big fights. Maybe because he's not the most dynamic. Well, that's what I said at the start. Munsterzilla. It's interesting. He schooled Zang when he fought him, and now all of a sudden Zang's in front of him. It doesn't make sense to me, but I just don't think Parker... Yeah, maybe I think the fact that he's already fought and lost to Joshua almost puts him out of the equation. I don't think Joshua will want to go back. I don't think he'll see the need or the benefit of fighting Parker again. So that puts a line through him. And of course, he's good friends with Tyson Fury, so that probably puts a line through that. And Usyk, I just think he's interested in Fury next, maybe a third fight with Fury, and then that'll be it. So that's what it probably almost, or why it almost freezes him out, Parker. It's a cruel, fickle game sometimes, and unfortunately Parker is right in the middle of that situation at the moment. Hopefully I'm wrong. No Limit has updated their website, says Kyle. Now you can see all the fighters they have signed. It's not a bad list. Okay, I'll check that out, mate. And I am glad they've got on the front foot and started to sign a lot of these guys too. Because I think they got caught napping there for a little while. No Limit. They thought, oh well, we've got the TV and we've got Tim Tszyu and Nikita Tszyu, and then all of a sudden there's been a few fighters sort of snatched out from under them, got with other promoters, and I think they've noticed that the pennies dropped, and they're starting to build the stable up to safeguard their promotions going forward. Then the next challenge, of course, is to satisfy all those fighters on there, giving them the regular fights they need, giving them the opportunities they want, and they all want to headline pay-per-views and all the rest of it. So that's the thing, managing the egos of all the fighters and their teams. Carl says, I think Parker is in best or career best form, and for me, the AJ rematch makes the most sense. It makes the most sense, Carl. I don't think it'll happen though, mate. He's got 2 opponents to choose from now in Zang and Dubois. Parker's on the outer, I'm afraid. Matias versus Paro the same day as the Tank cards. Sweet. Watch the Paro fight, then watch the Tank and Benavides highlights for free on Main Event YouTube. Ain't paying for that shit. Well, they want... Where is it? I'll just quickly have a look if I can. At the... I'm pretty sure it is it about $35? Let me have a look. Might even be more, I think. I don't like doing this on live TV, looking at my phone. It is, Sunday, June the 16th. So it's Tank and Martin, Benavides and Gvozdik. $50 if you want to see that. Whereas if you go on DAZN, you can watch Liam Paro for free. Well, it's not free because you've got a subscription. But yeah, good day of fights. Damien, sorry. What time is that? 10 a.m. on Main Event. And I'm assuming the Paro fight will probably be a couple of hours after that. So I'll be watching Liam Paro for sure. I'm not sure I'm going to pay $50 for that. Having said that, I probably will, but $50 for Tank and Frank Martin, not quite sure. But anyway, Wilder KO reminded me a bit of Hagler KO of Hearns. Yeah, it did a little bit because same situation, Dan. Tommy didn't well, he'd sort of turned his back. He was a little bit off balance and sort of almost jogged forwards, didn't he, away from Hagler, and Hagler came after him and clocked him with the big right hand from behind. But yeah, it did have certain elements of the same thing, didn't it? Still don't like to see it. No Limit giving us retired footy players on a card and charging us premium. Of course, Carl. Don't you know that if the rugby players are on there, then that's just the excuse to pay $70. Shouldn't matter that the rest of the card's no good. We've got footy players on, so cough up. All right, No Limit is completely taking the piss with these pay-per-view prices. Well, Glenn, seems to be the common theme online at the moment with all the chat sites that you go to. A lot of very unhappy boxing fans out there, and I would hope that, well, I was just going to say I hope that No Limit would sit down. I'm sure they do. They'd be getting feedback from whether it be direct messages or they read the Facebook page or Instagram page or whatever the hell it is. They would have an indication, but I've just got a feeling the hands are tied and they've got to have X amount of pay-per-views per year and they just haven't got the pay-per-view fighters. So what do? They've got to put them on as best they can and then they just get reamed for it. So I'd be really interested to see the numbers, and I'm sure they won't release them, but I'd love to see of any of them the Goodman Schliebs card. How many pay-per-views were sold for that? But again, they've got to put them on. They're under contract, but the problem is they've got a rock and a hard place. They have to put them on, but they don't have the content apart from the two zoos, and that's it. Damien, wow. Big time there. Rip off dipshit scumbags. All right, well, tell us the way you really feel, Damien. What do you got there? Carl. Chanel Dargan's opponent just confirmed. I'm going to have a crack at it, Carl, because you just said you can't pronounce it. Looks like another Thai fighter, which is fodder for our fighters. Was hoping for better. Well, surely they could find someone for Chanel Dargan, Carl. Surely. Just pull it from the card if that's the case. Let me have a crack at this. Panaporn Kaupa Wong. There you go. Panaporn Kawapong. No, hang on. Panaporn Kaupa Wong is her name. That's one word by the looks of things. Well, I know a lot of the Thai fighters can be known to maybe change names. A lot of them actually adopt the gym name as their last name. So who knows? I don't think there's a gym in Thailand called Panaporn Kaupa Wong. But anyway, how'd I go there, mate? No Limit is heading to DAZN. Yeah, okay. Well, that could be... Well, because if Tasman don't fulfill their obligations, DAZN need content. So, yeah. They need a streaming platform, Kyle. They need a streaming platform that's not Main Event or Fox, because they're obviously not streaming platforms. DAZN is. So pretty much they need it. And again, on the round table on D-Style, they always talk about the Australian scene. They don't get to see a lot of the fighters because they don't have access to a streaming app. They can't watch it live. So I know they can watch a lot of it on YouTube afterwards, but you really want to go through the hassle of going right back and just watching a card that's a few days old. They want to watch it live. So that would not surprise me, Kyle. Even though I think I said on here, I did speak to Mick Francis and he's got some big plans with DAZN. Who knows? I don't know. Andrew, $39 for the pay-per-views. Yep. All the fights on No Limit main card from the last pay-per-view were up on YouTube in full a week later. Save your dough and listen to Olympian Lynden, then watch the replay a week later. Makes sense to me. Yep. Well, you can do that. Every fight show that is on TV or streaming, I will be covering. I will from now on. So I think the next one is the 19th, which is the Alice Premier Series in Melbourne. So I'll do that. And the Paro fight, of course, I'll be doing them all. So if you haven't watched before, it's just me. It's you watching me, watching the screen. But it's really good that if you're watching the fight yourself and you want people to talk with or put it at different conversations and opinions out there, it's just really good. Or if you can't watch or you don't want to pay up, whatever it might be, then I'll give you the commentary as we go. I can't show it or have you listened to it, though, just to give you the heads up. But good point, Shamrock. I like it. Sorry. Sorry, Carl. I'm going to keep moving. I've got about 15 minutes to go. So nice to see your channel continuing to grow. You deserve a great boxing information here. Thanks, Tommy. I appreciate that, mate. But I am a bit slow, apparently, so I'll move on. Tell you what, I'm pumped for this Lopez, Steve, the killer, Claggett. What a war this won't be. Yeah, so I've got that mixed up. I had Claggett as the other super middleweight, and I've mixed because we had William Skull as the IBF mandatory. I thought Claggett was the WBA or WBO, whatever it might have been. But you're right, Teofimo Lopez. What is Teofimo Lopez doing there, Carl? It just does not make sense to me. Fights once a year, and if this is the fight he's going to fight, he fights this guy. It does not make sense. So, Samson agreed to the rematch, but Fundora won't be cleared to fight until October, and Tim wouldn't wait. Well, it makes a lot of sense now, doesn't it, Carl? If only, eh? Because Tim probably won't fight till October as well. All right. There's Fentanyl Floyd. There you go, mate. Hit the likes. Like it. Bivol is a small light heavyweight. Opataya wins easy, says Paul. Yep, I'm not sure it's easy, Paul. I think we've got to give him enough respect that he gives it a fight, but I think Opataya wins for me. Jai gets his wish, and Turkey makes an Australian card like this. Opataya versus Zerdo. Tszyu versus Martazalia. Paro Kambosos. Yeah. Not sure Kambosos will go to 140, but yep. Huni versus McKean. Malova on good authority that McKean doesn't really want much to do with Huni, but never know. And Nicholson versus Chapman. I will die a happy man. Geez, you're pretty easily pleased there, Kyle. I'm not sure I'd die a happy man with that card. I don't mind it, but I think we can do a little bit. The Paro Kambosos fight ain't happening. I could probably say that now, and I don't think Huni McKean's happening, but I get it. It's a wish list. But die a happy man on that card? Okay, well, we're all got different tastes here, Kyle, and if that makes you happy, mate, then good luck to you. Sorry, Kyle, I don't want to keep giving you a hard time, mate. Not sure Jai beats Bivol. Great fight anyway. I'd love to see it. Nick Ball reminds me of Wee Man from Jackass. I haven't really watched Jackass, Paul. I just never really been my thing. There's Peter. How are you, mate? I don't see any... Is it just me? I don't see any black or white on your screen tonight, mate. Or is it just me? Maybe it's on another post that I've missed there. No black and white on your name tonight. Just joking, Peter. Still the reigning premiers, and that's all that matters. All right, Bivol looked big against Canelo. As Bivol would look small against Opataya, who would be too much for Bivol. Yeah, size matters. And I just think Opataya would get the job done at that weight. I think George needs a rest for a while, says Carl. That's about George Kambosos. Yep, Carl, a guy can dream. Yep, that's your dreams. You can do what you want. Kambosos could be a credible opponent for Tank Davis. Bigger payday than Wilson. Yeah. I agree, Paul. That wouldn't be a bad option for Tank. He only fights once a year, though. That's the problem. They'd have to always tie in. But, yeah, you never know. Was it just me, or did it take a few rounds for Bivol to wake up? I just think Carly didn't really know much about Zinad. Hang on, Malik Zinad. And I just think, like good fighters do, just took his time, worked him out. But as soon as he landed a couple of shots, Carl, you got to be impressed. He just got him out of there quick, smart. So there is nothing at the Australian scene that Kambosos couldn't beat. As we say, Lynden, levels. I agree, mate. Love that. Hashtag levels. It's got to be with a Z, though, I think, Peter. I think that's the way it's Noonan Boy and everyone does it. The levels with a Z. I think he's actually might have a brand of clothing called Levels. Anyway, if he has, make sure you check it out. I haven't spoke to him for a while, but I hope he's doing well, Noonan Boy. RIP Wilder, very entertaining fighter, but limited. Yeah, he was, mate. DDD is only 26. Geez, I'm a fan now. I think he's learning quickly on the job. Yep. This whole thing about you lose the fight and your career's over. Yeah, he lost to Joyce, and yeah, he lost to Usyk. But yeah, you're right, 26. He's probably 4 years away from his peak. So good on him. If he gets another fight with, or a fight with Joshua and loses, he's probably still got time. So this whole mentality, this boxing thing about if you lose, your career's over, I don't like. I know there's the way you lose, as we saw with Wilder. But yeah, I think if you're not getting knocked around and you're just losing fights, then keep going. You know, especially the money these heavyweights make. Zang is in front because of the money to be made from China. Good call, Peter. Didn't think of that one myself, to be honest. Massive audience from China. So does he go with the Englishman in his home country or their home country, or does he go for the pay-per-views from China? And I think even doesn't really matter. When you think about it, Zang probably makes the most sense, really, if you break it down, because he's going to get 90,000 whether he fights Dubois or Zang, so that's a guarantee. And then he's going to get the pay-per-views in England and all around the world, and the pay-per-views in China. And what have they got? The most population of any country in the world. So money talks, so you never know. Bill, Jai deserves to be known by this country, especially winning with a busted jaw. His team should make him more public known. Yeah, look, again, strangely enough, Bill, I had this conversation with Mick, and I know they're conscious of it. The problem is that it's one thing to be pushing him onto the newspapers and everything else, but they've got to want to do the story on Jai. And from all accounts, the Australian media haven't really been too worried or concerned about Jai, which all the Maloneys or even George Kambosos to some extent didn't get a lot of love. So, or as much as you probably should have. It's just a shame, it really is. But the Australian public, unless you're an absolute superstar like Tim and even Nikita, I suppose, they don't want to know. There's too much going on with football and rugby league and cricket and everything else. So I agree, mate. It's a shame, but this is just the country we live in, which is, it's really hard to get your head around considering our history in boxing and how much, even 50 years ago, how much more was covered than it is now. It's just a disgrace, Bill. AJ should fight Zang and leave Triple D to have his crack at the titles. Dubois, he's owed that over that Usyk controversy. Yeah, makes a good point. But again, it's all about money, Andy. Usyk's, he's been there and done that. I don't think we'd see him fight Triple D again or Dubois. But yeah, you're right. Maybe deserves a crack at a title. Well, he did get a crack at the interim title, but all comes down to money, Andy, doesn't it? I liked watching, I'm not going to pronounce that again, a Premier Series last event. I don't think I saw that one, Carl. I did miss a couple of fights. I don't think I saw that one, so apologies if I missed that one. That's Jazia Poatoa. Didn't see it, I don't think. Does anybody else have problems with the zone? My picture is full of glitches, says Andrew. I didn't have any dramas, Andrew. I had it on my computer. I didn't stream it on my phone or on the screen, on the or stream it to my TV. I just put it on my PC and it streamed no problem. So if you've got a monitor or whatever it might be, you can hook up to your computer if it's not a big one. You've got a laptop or something, hook it up to a monitor and stream it to that, and you should have no dramas. I didn't have one glitch at all, Andrew, and my internet's shit, by the way. I have got Starlink, but still hasn't been the greatest. All right. The zone sucks. You need good fibre internet, says Damien. There you go, Peter. Stick with your team there, mate. Stick with the Pies. Yeah, it was Bivol's first KO for 6 years. I think it was 12 fights, I think. No, 9. Was it 9? 9 fights, I think it was, straight, without a KO. And it wasn't technically a KO, it was a stoppage, but of course, we're grasping at straws a bit there, aren't we? The Big Turkey should put Ryan Garcia versus Teofimo Lopez on a big, old, abandoned, refurbished mental asylum. Oh, imagine that, those two going at it. And the dad's in there as well. Jeez, fair income. Okay, DAZN gets glitchy. Well, let me know. Are you watching it on your phone or streaming it to a TV, or are you watching it on your PC? Let me know. There's Hanoi Tripper. All good. Hi, all. Good win by Zang. He can bring in more Chinese fighters. 1.4 billion Chinese. That's a lot of people, isn't it? India actually has a bigger population than China now. There you go. We better be nice to India then, didn't we? We need Tim and Nikita versus Tszyu's other sons. He has in Russia now. The damn pay-per-view. Yeah, we don't know. Kostya lives in Russia with his new wife and has got a couple of other kids. Not sure that'll happen, Damien, but I like the concept. Jai really good, but bland. He needs a retarded. Oh, geez. I love yous all catchphrase. Andrew, geez. Jai should be the Australian sports person of the year. Absolute superstar who has earned nothing but respect. I agree, Peter. Yep, he's been the best performed Australian boxer of the last couple of years, so I'm with you there, mate. Tim should go to a Russia with his old man and make some big bucks. Yeah, good in theory, but I think, yeah, look, you could probably go over there and make massive amounts of money. But I think, end of the day, the home of boxing's in the States, and that's where he wants to be. So, yeah, streaming it from my phone to the TV. Try it on your PC, Carl. You should be able to, if you go to the DAZN website, just log in as you would on your phone, and just stream it, and just see how that goes. Or don't stream, or it's on your computer. Because what it is, it's, I've been told all the bandwidths and all this sort of stuff when it goes from your phone, it's a lot of effort for your phone to stream it, and then to go to your TV creates more strain, and that's why it glitches. If it's on your PC, I don't know how it all works, but apparently it just does it better. And I can speak from experience. I had no dramas, and normally if I put the zone on from my phone and put it on the screen, it not only glitches, it just freezes and we just get the circle going round and round. It stops and starts, and it crashes and all that sort of stuff. But on my PC, not an issue whatsoever. So give it a try. Yeah, Damien, regional Victoria internet isn't the best. Tell me about it, Damien. It is shit. PC still crap. Okay, I don't know what to tell you then. Maybe Jai, maybe should build Jai more with unification here in Australia. It says Andy. They need to do something. Look, end of the day, does he really? I'm sure it matters to him, but if he's overseas and he's known more on the world stage and getting paid millions of dollars per fight, I don't think he's going to be too stressed. No worries, Carl. No worries. Thanks for the aim. Well, we've got a couple of minutes to go. That's gone quick, hasn't it? Stay on campus. There's always some guys putting up the illegal streams of the fights, but not Saudi ones as it's too early. Yeah, I don't know how all the illegal stuff goes. I know people send me stuff all the time, but yeah, no, I just pay the $35, which I don't think is too bad. I know not everyone can afford $35, by the way, but $70 is one thing, but $30 I don't think is too much to look. The thing is too is the time of the events is a factor sometimes, Hanoi, but yeah, I'm not sure you'd get many uni students wanting to be up at 2 or 3 in the morning, would you? So it's hard to build Jai up if he doesn't fight for a belt in Australia. Well, he did fight for his belt in Australia, Peter, but even that didn't get a lot of attention from the press, did it? Look, maybe a way is just to actually employ a marketing person to actually the job, because you got to remember Mick Francis and his team. I mean, they're jetting all over the world. He's just been back in with Jai to Saudi Arabia over the weekend after his fight over there. So. And the amount of interviews and the rooting around and getting back, he's got shows here to do. So maybe that might be an option to actually employ a marketing person for Jai and just see what happens. I know back in the day, when I did some work with Dean Lonergan with DNL events, he had marketing guys who dealt with main event and did all the little promotion things they do, the little clips they put on social media and on the broadcast itself, and they deal with the tourism mobs and all that sort of stuff. And he could be left to actually doing the promoting of the event and selling tables and sponsorship and all that sort of stuff. So look, it could. I'm not sure whether Mick Francis has got someone, but yeah, it might be an option going forward. So the thing with Fennick and Green, Andrew, this is Danny Green, is that they were those Aussie battler types, they had personality. And the problem with Jai is he's a nice guy, but he's not the most outspoken guy. So that's probably got a little bit to do with it. He's not really appealing to the Aussie, bogan Aussie out there, where Fennick and Danny Green were. Having one awesome event here in Melbourne would be awesome, though. It would, mate. I agree. I would never pirate the Saudi ones. You price them correctly like that, and I'll buy every single time. Yeah, $35. I mean, you can't beat it, can you? Do you think Jai's last belt was difficult? We'll have taught him a lot. Which was difficult? We'll have taught him a lot. Yeah, I think so, Hanoi. I think so. And don't forget, too, apart from when he got the headbutt to the nose, he absolutely dominated that fight. I had it 9 rounds to 0 up until that point. Maybe 8-1 if he was lucky, Breedis. So I just think he got accidental headbutt, and I think it just threw him off. And Breedis, the only thing he did wrong was try and slug with Breedis. He should have just try and box through the last 3 rounds and get the decision, but he wanted the stoppage. That probably wasn't the smartest thing to do. But yeah, it would have taught him a lot. I just think it would be not to get drawn into a slugfest if you don't need to, Hanoi. He had the fight won. He should have boxed smart. And the only time Briedis looked effective at all was when Jai decided to stand with him, trying to fight through blood in his eye, blood in his mouth and his nose and tears in his eyes. That's the only success Briedis had. So I'm not reading too much into how well Briedis did later in the fight. I'm looking at Jai just fought the wrong fight later in the fight once he got injured. 35 was well worth it. Had to tell Mrs. No fishing, sorry. I like that. Peter, a couple more comments and we'll call it a night. There are plenty of mates in Melbourne that would run to buy tickets to watch Opetaia fight here. Yeah, okay. That's good to know. And last comment, Fenix said years ago that Opetaia was going to win a belt. Well, I'm pretty sure he did some work with Jai at the start, Peter. I think he was one of the first people to work with with Jai, and he said he was definitely a world champion in the making. So, all right, one last comment from Hanoi Tripper. What do you think the fastest way to get a pro fight is in Vic from beginner to the ring? Is this Victoria or just in general? Hang on, what do you think is the fastest way to get a pro fight is in Victoria from beginning to the ring? Oh, just from beginner to the ring. Just depends on what trainer you got, Hanoi. A lot of trainers will throw you in after about 6 weeks of training. I don't know, find a good, solid trainer in Melbourne and take as long as it takes. That's probably my only advice, because when you get in there, no one can help you in there except the referee who pulls the pin or the corner that throws in the towel. So just get a good trainer and spend as much time as required in the gym to make sure you are ready. That's all I'll say. WA is a graveyard for boxing. His PR was great. Couldn't get any more marketable guy than Danny Green, Andrew. He was just a great a great seller of his events. Having Anthony Mundine helped a hell of a lot. It's like that perfect storm of bang. The personalities and the appeal of both the good guy, the bad guy. I think they can thank each other for their standing in Australian boxing at that time. They just were both around at exactly the right time, same divisions, same ages, all that sort of stuff. Just one of those once in a lifetime sort of things, wasn't it? Danny Green, Anthony Mundine. So, guys, let's call it a night. We're right. We've gone a couple of minutes over, but it's always, as usual, gone super quick. Really appreciate you all logging in, whether you're watching now or listening afterwards on Spotify or watching the replay, of course. But it's always great to come in here and talk boxing with you. And until next week, we'll see you then. See you guys.